crazy. They were asking if you were around, where you were, the way you could be found. I told them you were living downtown, driving all the old men crazy. The boys are back in town. Boys are back in town. I said the boys are back in town. 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 The boys are back. The boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town. Hello, Ray.
Good evening, Mike. How are you? Happy
Literally,
Thursday.
boys are back in town. You just got in a little while ago.
Just made it. I wasn't driving too fast, but I was doing the best I could to make sure that
we're going to get into that later. We're going to get into your drive later. But we have a great show for you tonight, everybody, and thanks for tuning in a little bit early. Our first guest, a great guy, Ray. You're gonna love. You're going to love Dr. Darrin Porcher. Where do I start with him? He's a criminal justice professor, retired NYPD lieutenant, Army officer, commentator for Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CourtTV. I'm sure I left a bunch out. But without further ado, let's bring him in, Ray. Hello, Dr. Darrin Porcher.
We're here. We're in the building. Mike, Ray, what's going on, guys? I'm so glad to be on. Where's Jen?
Jen's here. Jen's backstage. We're gonna bring her in 2 seconds. But Darrin, okay. I just have to say, first of all, Happy New Year and welcome back from your world tour.
Okay, well, thank you. It was the reason why I came back because I was coming on the show. So had it not been for To The Point, I wouldn't have been on. And then you guys, I love the way you open up the show. Blues Brothers music. I mean, what better than that? The boys are back in town.
Boys are back in town. Thin Lizzy, little Thin Lizzy for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
All right, so
got my guitar, but okay, go ahead.
You hop into that. It was good. It's good, some good music. Yeah. So real quick, Darrin, I know everybody's probably knocking down your door with this whole crime, everything in New York City. So I just wanted to get your take on just one quick question. I want to bring Jen in, and we'll go into the mental health thing. But Eric Adams, our new mayor, he called it a perception of fear in New York City. Right. Is it a perception of fear, or should people be afraid to go into the city today?
Well, Eric Adams has since walked back those comments, right, and now focusing on we do have crime that's reaching epic proportions in the subway system. So as a result, we need to have the necessary deployment of police officers in uniform to present the component of omnipresence. When I say the component of omnipresence, that's merely the officer standing on a platform, because in many ways that acts as a deterrent. But the thing that really needs to be done, and I'm not taking a shot at Eric Adams. It was the de Blasio administration's 8-year epic collapse in connection with public safety, because Bill de Blasio put public safety on the back and then liberalism on the front. And we saw that it was a catastrophic failure in the wake of keeping New Yorkers safe. So what you really want to focus on is interdicting the low-level offenses first, because I want to say 99.5% of all of the offenders in the subway system have entered illegally. And so if you can stop them before they get onto the system, then you tremendously reduce the level of crime that's being committed within the subway system. So as we stand today, we listen to what Eric Adams said. He's only been in. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks. Tomorrow will be the 21st. He'll be in 3 weeks. And I can't expect him to overcome 8 years of disaster under the de Blasio administration. I don't want it to be a glacial process. I want it to happen yesterday. But we have to be realists. There are people that are still being newly minted within the Eric Adams administration. So hopefully he gets on the right trajectory to keep us safe.
Right. Okay. So real quick too, and I know, Ray, I'm talking a lot, but I wrote a lot of notes down. I wanted to get it in since we have a limited amount of time. Curtis Lewa posted a video of the Guardian Angels on a train. I don't know if you got to see that at all. No. The Guardian Angels were attending a service for Michelle Go. I guess she's the woman that was pushed in front of the train.
Just pushed on the subway, right?
Right. So they I guess held the guy in the subway car until the police got there. They cuffed him and they patted him down ever so lightly. It's just like, you know, I pet my cat lighter than that, you know? So, and it brings up the question where I think people were saying the pat down was so light. They didn't really check for the knife that he pulled on people. He exposed himself to people, but then they let him go. And it seemed like the cops are afraid to do their jobs because they're being handcuffed by, you know, it just seems like they're afraid because there's always a camera on them. And what is that like, a policeman trying to do their job with someone holding a camera on them? Does that stop them from doing their job?
Well, there are two schools of thought with that. There's one side of it that you can say, hey, look, you're always under the microscope because you're wearing a body camera. But the other side of it is now I get to show you what I'm actually doing. And in many cases, I'll be vindicated from these frivolous allegations that are made against police officers. So I think it actually works for officers as opposed to against them. In addition to that, when you go to court, you can introduce whatever video footage that you have in connection with the offense that was committed by that person in question. But going back to your first question about the officers, do they feel as if their hands are tied? Under the great Bill de Blasio's administration, they removed something that police officers had, what we refer to as qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is merely affording police a blanket of legal representation if they're sued based on acting within their official capacity. Give an example. Cop goes to lock somebody up, and in the midst of arresting the person, a struggle ensues. That person is taken into custody. They later sue the officer for wrongful arrest and excessive force. The qualified immunity affords that officer the legal protections in a courtroom when they're sued. Bill de Blasio, I say the great Bill de Blasio, removed the qualified immunity for the officers. So you have to understand the officers are going to be very apprehensive in taking proactive action against people, knowing that they can be sued and they don't have the blanket of qualified immunity. That being said, I'm hopeful that Eric Adams, being a prior law enforcement practitioner, meaning he was a former NYPD captain, he would understand the necessity of having qualified immunity and how germane that is for officers to go out and do their job in a proactive approach as opposed to reactive in connection with what you saw in the video.
Right. You have anything for Darrin, or you want to bring Jen on?
Doc, I wanted to ask you a question. Well, I'll share my opinion, but there's a question at the end here.
Hey, Ray, before we get started, I love your hair. I just can't get it there, man. You know, it's the black magic that keeps it low here, man. If I can get my hair like Ray's, and Mike would kill to have hair like mine. So you're in the ascending order. You're at the apex, Ray, in terms of hair. I'm right in the middle, and Mike is at the bottom. And we're all striving. We're all striving to get to where you are, man.
Thank you very much. Doc, listen, thank you for your service. I have to say, I know Mike and I both want to thank you for your service to our country.
Well,
I mean,
see, I got my Army shirt on here.
Nice.
Yeah. My question is this: it's a statement, but a question also. As much as we're trying to get the city back on track, and our leaders, Eric Adams, the city council, so forth, I also feel like those of us who love the city, all of us do, have to do our part. And as much as there is an issue in the city regarding crime, I feel as though if you are able to do something in the city, if you're able to go to an event and you're an able-bodied person and you can get around and so forth, you know, I don't want to use the word obligation, but I feel like we almost have an obligation to kind of stick behind the city rather than flee it, and to kind of do our part and be smart about being safe, you know, and not take unnecessary chances. But I feel like we have to stand in defense of our city by spending our money and visiting and so forth. What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. New York City is a tremendous conglomerate, and it's a melting pot. It's always been seen as a melting pot. We have nationalities from all over that come and rest in New York City. Therefore, we need to preserve and protect it the best way we can. That doesn't mean that when you see someone getting robbed outside, you rush up to the person with a knife. The best way that I would suggest or recommend for anyone, if they are looking to attempt to interdict a crime that's being committed, is call 911. You know, we look at a lot of these crimes, whereas people, the first thing they do is they do this. They break out their cell phone and they start recording. That's not what you do. If you call 911. Now, After you dialed 911, you elected to video or take a picture of it for the purpose of affording police this information to assist them in capturing an individual. By all means, I got that. But you call 911 first. This is not something that you do to put online to say, wow, things are crazy here. We're better than that. We're bigger than that. And as a society, it's a collaborative approach in maintaining public safety. New York City at 36,000 uniformed cops, but you have a population of 8.5 million people. 36,000 cops pales in comparison to the assistance that you can get from 8.5 million people. We're in this thing together. It's a collaborative process. So when you do see something, if you feel that this is something that you can self-correct, and I give you an example. Let's say someone has a dog in front of your house and the dog defecates in front of your house, and that person, the owner or the handler of that dog, fails to remove, the number 2 that was left on the ground. Something like that. It's okay if you say, hey, buddy, could you do me a favor? I got kids that live here. If you can be ever so kind and you can remove it, I would genuinely appreciate it. Fine. But when you see someone committing a felony, a robbery, a rape, or a homicide, you got to use the tools of 911. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a retired lieutenant with the NYPD. I carry a gun every day. If I see something happening in the street, it's highly unlikely that I would intercede. If I see a violent felony occurring in the street, it's highly unlikely that I would intercede because, for one, I don't know if the responding officers would be able to comprehend that I'm not part of the situation. The second part is I'm just not equipped. I don't carry handcuffs. I don't have a backup team that could assist me. So that's me as a retired lieutenant speaking. Now, let's take the average Joe public or Joe citizen. They walk into a situation, you don't know what you're approaching. You get cops that get shot, and these are uniformed cops. So you as a civilian, you can't guarantee your safety. So I think the best course of action is bring in the professionals and have them handle it. But if it's a low-level offense, such as someone littering or, a dog that wasn't cleaned up by the owner, then I think something like that, you can make mention in a casual way. Not, hey, if you don't get this stuff cleaned up, I'm going to come over here and beat you with a baseball bat. That doesn't work.
Right.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. You think of the word vigilante comes to mind, but it's just that if I was next to someone on the train, Darrin, and I saw that she was being abused or whatever, I don't know if I'd be able to contain myself rather than put my hands on the guy, and then I'm gonna get in some kind of trouble for doing that. So I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often, that the people, instead of getting their cameras out, grab the guy off the person and do it. So I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
Mike, but you bring up a very valid point. If you're in a situation where you're comfortable taking action, by all means do it. If you're in a situation where, let's say hypothetically, as you just mentioned, you're on a subway and you see a woman is being sexually assaulted, and you have the ability to commingle the other passengers on the train and say, hey, look, you know what, we need to do something about this. I'm all for it. But it's all relative to the situation that you're in. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You have to make the assessment as to what works best for you, as well as the person that's being accosted in that particular situation.
Yeah. See, here's a comment we just got from Susan. The DA must go. We want him out. And that is resonating like you wouldn't believe.
That's my girl, Susan Miller.
Yes, Susan Miller.
I love her.
Yes. We have to get her on, Ray, as an investigative reporter. She's everywhere. I think that she cloned herself, and she's everywhere where the action is. She's there with
But not to cut you off, Mike, I just want to give an extension to what Susan Miller just mentioned. We have to get the DA out. Susan Miller I love you too, Susan. She's specifically making mention to the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. I mean, not saying that the other district attorneys in the other counties of the city of New York are balls of fire, but specifically Alvin Bragg has come in and vehemently stated that he refused to prosecute the low-level offenses. If someone is carrying a firearm and they don't use it, he's going to devalue the charges. And you've had, I think, over a dozen DAs have basically ran for the door in the wake of his unwillingness to uphold the rule of law.
Right. For example, I think he said armed robbery with use of a gun, but not using the gun, 364 days maximum sentence.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so that's, you know,
he's not upholding the rule of law. And the rule of law is specific to if a felony is committed, a person will be charged in excess of 364 days. It should be 365 plus.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Let's bring in Jen real quick because I know she had some. Let's go on to the mental health part of it. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Darrin. Thank you for joining us tonight. You know, I was wondering what your thoughts are about the mental health component about the crime rate in New York. The recent statistics that I read from city health officials is that 1 in 25 New Yorkers live with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia. What are your thoughts about mental illness and how it plays into the crime rate?
Well, when we think about mental illness, it's a slippery slope because if you speak to any guy, he'll tell you that his significant other suffers from mental illness. So we just have a lot of people that haven't been clinically diagnosed. Me being one of them. If you ask my kids will probably tell you, oh, my dad is the craziest person on the face of this earth. He just hasn't been diagnosed and he's running around unmedicated. So we have a lot of people that are doing that. But on a serious note, Jen, when you make mention to the medical people suffering from medical illness, the average person that suffers from medical illness is more apt to become the victim of a crime than the perpetrator of a crime. What we hear about oftentimes is the perpetrators of crimes that are suffering from mental illness, but we have far more people that are mentally ill that are actually the victims of crimes. Now, that being said, how do we address that? There's a multitude of avenues that police can take. And it shouldn't always be the platform of incarceration. I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with a collaborative approach, meaning pairing off police officers and social workers or mental health workers to make that assessment or deal with people in the street. But one of the problems is police are always the agency of default. So when you look at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, you're not going to have the mental health practitioner that's going to be out there with police. I just think that we need to revolutionize how we erect law enforcement, and those additional pieces should be in play. I would love the fact if we had mental health workers that were assigned to police precincts or police commands. And whenever things happened, whenever you received certain calls for service, that mental health worker would automatically be dispatched with the officer. But then a lot of times you look at a municipality is managing the challenges of a financial budget. So now we're looking at, are we going to hire these people? And in many instances, they may not even be used, because if you look at a quantitative assessment, how many times does a police officer deal with a violent, mentally ill person? Right. There's not a lot of it, but what you hear about are the situations that go wrong. But it really needs to be a collaborative approach, and I think that's what will get it done. But the key is not just having them from 8 a.m. in the morning till 8 p.m. at night. Right. You need them 24 hours. And are we willing to commit to resources to staff mental health workers with police officers 24 hours a day? And then another thing, oftentimes police officers engage summary incidents. When I say summary incident, meaning you can have a uniformed cop that's driving around, and as he turns the corner, he sees a mentally ill person that's in possession of a bat, and he's swinging it against another person. You're going to say, damn, where the hell is the mental health worker? Because the goal would be, we can't have a mental health practitioner riding with every single police officer that's working. I think the agenda would be, when an incident happens, that's when we would deploy the mental health practitioner. But just a common officer on the street is not going to be aligned. I don't foresee a situation where we align that officer with the mental health practitioner. So that is a challenge that needs to be, that should be worked out, because we've been doing the same thing for years on end. And it's just so unfortunate. We have many occurrences where police are opposed with situations where they employ deadly physical force or physical force against a mentally ill person. And, you know, the after action review always states, hey, look, we wish we had the mental health practitioners. So it's something that remains to be seen. But that's my answer. I know I gave you something that was extremely abstract, but hopefully I was able to pinpoint. And if you do have anything more so specific that you want to ask, please feel free to hit me with it.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking was the police are on the front line and are on the front line of recognizing signs of mental illness. Should they take those that they identify as possibly being mentally ill to the hospitals more proactively?
I'm in wholehearted agreement with that. But the problem that we have with that is if a person is not presenting a danger to themselves or the public, you can't just take that person into custody and commit them to a mental institution, a mental illness institution, or a psych ward, something to that effect. So where the challenge exists is what is the barometer that would allow police to actually have that interaction to bring that person to a mental health facility. And that's where we'll need the social workers that can work in tandem with police to make these assessments on the street. But with the problem that I see is far too long we've been doing nothing as opposed to something. So when you offer no services to this mental health population, the problem exacerbates. You have to introduce the services. Under the de Blasio administration, we had something we refer to as Thrive NYC. Mayor de Blasio's wife was at the apex or at the forefront of Thrive NYC. There was $900 million that was earmarked for Thrive NYC. However, that $900 million is with Jimmy Hoffa. Nobody knows where it is. And there has been no credible investigation as to where this $900 million went. And this $900 million was specifically focused towards the homeless population, but nothing happened.
Exactly. And Darrin, we did a show a few weeks ago where we had actually, unfortunately, a homeless gentleman on, and he was talking about the shelters that they put them in, and the people that don't have mental illness are afraid to go to these shelters. So that's why everybody's on the street, because they're getting beat up. They're getting, it's a terrible situation that they have. Being forced into these places with people with real mental illness, and it was just an incredible show. I learned a lot with that. Do you remember that, Ray? When we had
that was exactly right. That we sometimes group homeless people into one category as being homeless, but there's different divisions within that group, and some are mentally ill, some are recovering addicts, some are not, and there's some differences there that we may not be aware of, and that's what keeps some people who are homeless away from shelters. That's exactly right.
Yeah, we have a question from one of our viewers, Darrin. During the training at the academy, do they have a course for mental illness? If so, how many hours are in the course, and how many hours do they have being aggressive or taking charge of the situation? Is that something that's taught in the academy?
I was an instructor in the NYPD's police academy for a number of years when I was a sergeant. And we did have a component where we addressed mental illness and how to make the assessment in connection with mental ill with people that are mentally ill. And Ray brought up a very valid point. There are different components of mental illness. You can have a person that they did too much drugs. You can have another person that's suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. You can have another person that's suffering from another medical condition, and unfortunately group everyone together as mentally ill. You cannot use the same antidote for all persons that are mentally ill. Therefore, that's why I believe the necessity of someone that is a social worker or a mental health practitioner. This should be their bag. I can't give you a specific number of hours that officers are trained in dealing with people with mental illness, but the natural order is this. If a cop on the street engages a person that's suffering from mental illness, and this person is either a threat to themselves or a threat to a third party, or this is an arrest-related situation, there are two things that officer is supposed to do. The first thing is something referred to as an isolation and containment strategy. Take a couple of steps back. The second thing is call a supervisor. The supervisor's responsibility is to reach out to emergency service. Emergency service has an semblance of resources, tools within their arsenal that they can use to take a person mentally ill into custody or to a mental health facility so they can receive treatment. But it goes back to, there is, I want to say, a deciduous level of training for police officers, but you really gotta have that mental health practitioner, because a police academy is 6 months, and in the 6 months you go through a conglomeration of different blocks of instruction. You know, how to shoot a gun, how to use force against someone, you know, an understanding of the law. So that mental health piece is, I don't want to say it's marginalized, but it's not a tremendous piece. Granted, they do role plays and things to that effect, but when you have a mental health practitioner, this is someone that goes through years of training, and they're going to have a far better understanding in how to assess, interdict, and effectively deal with that situation than a police officer.
Yeah. So Darrin, when they use the term, and I know a lot of people hate the term, retrain the police, is that something that introducing mental health help to police officers, is that legit? Is that a legit way to say to retrain the officers in that, you know, with that model of, okay, this person's mentally ill, we have to do this? Can that be an ongoing a teaching class for the police officers?
Professional development for in connection with mental illness should be an ongoing revolution in training. It's not just, okay, we trained you today and that's the end of it. We're always finding new groundbreaking techniques in how the mentally ill should be dealt with. You know, one of the things we think of is a common term for it is a tactical pause. You know, try to slow down the incident. There are 3 key pieces with this, you know, but without going into this, because I can do this for like a long time, but the big thing with that is it should be an ongoing revolution in training. It's not just today. It's something that we continuously do, because we're seeing changes through the lens of how we can better prepare ourselves in applying the appropriate techniques to the mentally ill when we take them into custody. So back to your point, Michael, it's not a derogatory thing. It's not negative. It's something that has to be done.
Okay. That's I think that's pretty much all my questions, Darrin. And I didn't want to have to keep you if you had things to do. I know you were running tight. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, of course, you know.
Unfortunately, I have to exit this elaborate room. And, you know, it was just, you know, speaking to Jennifer, speaking to Ray, as well as yourself, Michael, I think that we have some really good points that you guys are putting across. And I mean, I can do this for 10 hours with you, because this is a discourse that is fruitful. However, it's 8 p.m. and I don't want to lose my life in this house. Because, you know what I mean? I don't want to be the next homicide in the city of New York, right? We're neglecting family matters. That,
I don't know how we're going to get it.
I did Fox earlier, but I'm sorry, Dad.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to, but we're going to get you some T-shirts for you and your kids and everybody. We'll send them out to you. And, you know,
you have underwear with that same print on there? Okay, to the point. I'm only teasing you.
The only thing with the thongs, it's a little smaller font. So.
Well, come on, you know, I wear rainbow Speedo as I run around the house.
Nice.
So, you know, just please. Then I'd really get thrown out the window. But in any event, Mike, Ray.
Yeah, check out Darrin. He does a show with Joe, Blue Lives Matter. I catch it every time I see it. It's
Crossing the Line.
Crossing the Line.
Every Friday at 7 p.m. Go to Blue Lives Matter NYC, and you can always follow the link. And we have this week, I think we have Vicky Palladino, City Councilwoman. She's going to be on next week. We're going to have the Vice President of the FOP out of Texas, Joe Grimaldi. He's going to be on with us next week. Oftentimes I put on a lot of the stuff that what I do with Fox, CNN, that stuff comes up. So please tune in. But ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor, and I look forward to committing to another session on To the Point with Mike and Ray, along with Jen, and we can establish a more broader question-based question and answer session.
Yes.
And
you have an
hopefully
open
the
invitation,
listeners.
Darrin. An open
All
invitation.
right, well, cool.
Thanks,
Is there gonna be
Doc.
food? All right, sounds good.
Yeah,
All
Thanks,
right,
Doc.
guys, take it
Thank
easy,
you.
right?
Thank you.
All right, cool. All right, thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Darrin.
All right, bye.
So long. Yeah, so there was a lot of questions there. I got to ask, and I'm surprised I got most of them in. What do you think?
He's a very accomplished person, very accomplished individual. Grateful to have him on the show, and brings a very unique perspective. Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to defend the new Manhattan DA. What is that?
It's just some gum.
Oh, stop. You got me. Get full charged. I left it somewhere. Hold on.
Ray was like,
I'm not far from my pack of Winterfresh. Always with
nice. Wow, what do you buy the pallet?
Yeah, I get them. Yeah, I'm on the subscribe and save on Amazon. I buy about 5 dozen of them a week. So, and no, but,
I'm sorry.
Guilty as charged.
It's 6 feet of gum. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish the whole thing tonight, but
by the way, I still owe you that $15 for our bet.
That's all right. We'll keep it on.
I'll send it to you in gum. I'll buy you $15 worth of gum. No, listen, Darrin is a great. He brings a great perspective. It's hard to defend the Manhattan DA for the comments he's made and the decisions he's made in the short time he's been in office. I think he's doing a disservice to the city. I think he's doing a disservice to Democrats, because so many of us are, pro-police, pro-safety Democrats. And as we know, if there's a Democrat out there doing something stupid like this, God knows we all get tagged with it. So it's not fun to watch, and we'll see what happens in the next few weeks and months with the new mayor and the new, who obviously doesn't agree with this. So we've got the new mayor, the new DA. I think the mayor's kind of backed off some of his criticism. So I'll see of the DA. So I don't know where he's going to fall on this, Eric Adams, but
and Susan just wrote, we have over 10,000 signatures and growing to recall him. I don't think he can be recalled in New York City, but I think only the governor can act to remove him. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. So
challenging time, but what I was saying earlier though, Mike, I just want to make sure that all of us who love the city, that we don't get into this mindset where we can't go into Manhattan, we can't go into the city because of crime. If we're smart about things, I think we have an obligation almost to go to Manhattan and, spend our money and live life and help the city. It's too easy to find an excuse to run away. I think we have to stand our ground, and as things are getting better, as we hope things are getting better, and as we work to get things better, we also spend our money in Manhattan.
Yep, and
the boroughs.
One other thing I wanted to bring up with Darrin, but I didn't really so that it fit in. But about 13 months ago, because I looked up the last show that we did, we had Ed Mullins on, the president of the SBA in New York City.
Yep.
And I asked him, I said, is it safe for me and my family to take the train into the city, see a show, sightsee and eat? And he said, no, it's not. Now, this is the president of the Sergeants Benevolent Association saying it's really not safe. But if this is something, Jen, that I wanted to bring something up that you said, it was the possibility versus probability.
Right.
So in theory, it is, I guess it was safe, but for him to say it's not safe, it kind of scared me a little bit, to be honest with you. And coming from someone like that, I was like, oh, crap, that's not good.
Listen, it is possibility versus probability. Is it possible that you could be the victim of a crime? Absolutely. We take that risk every day, more so when we go into the city. But the probability of it happening, well, there's a question mark on that. And so we have to, it's a personal choice about whether we want to take that risk or not. And I think that some people are suffering from the fear of missing out. We're missing out on a lot, from not going into the city. And I think, Darrin really touched, on a lot of information. But I think that the mental health component needs to be addressed more aggressively, because I think that it perpetuates people's fears of not going into the city. When we see people who are homeless and are mentally ill on the streets of New York City not being attended to, it just perpetuates our fears. But as Darrin said as well, it's probably more likely that somebody with a mental illness will be the victim of a crime rather than be one that perpetrates a crime. So,
Jen, let me ask you though. When Darrin said that, I was gonna ask, but I kind of have an idea. But how would a someone that's mentally ill be more prone to be a victim than like say a perpetrator? What would people take advantage of the mentally ill? Is that how?
Yeah, take advantage of them. They're more susceptible to being the victim of a crime. I mean, I don't have examples off the top of my head how that could be, but they are a vulnerable population. And so I would say that they would be more susceptible to being the victim of a crime.
I'll tell you that story. We were talking, Jen, Mike and I were talking a few days ago about that terrible story about the woman who was pushed onto the tracks, and clearly that person looks like he's disturbed. But I probably should say something nicer, but I have no charity in my heart for that individual at all, whether he's mentally ill or not. This piece of shit. Yeah. So, I don't want to look at this guy, Mike. This guy. Yeah. I mean, for what this guy did, if you'd asked me a week or 2 weeks ago, I would have said that we should afford him every possibility of getting care, because of obviously his mental illness. Now I don't give a shit. Honestly, I don't care. I mean, this guy should be locked up, thrown away. The key should be thrown away. He should be, if there was capital punishment, I couldn't imagine a better circumstance for it, honestly. To just randomly kill this woman, and take her from the prime of her life and her family. I mean, you've given her family a life sentence. She's gone, but you've given her family a life sentence.
And that's the thing, right? And I'm not cherry picking stories. This is another story that happened last week. Her name was Crystal Bayron. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. She was 19 years old, just working in Burger King. And this guy, it took them, I don't know, a few days to catch him, but he wound up working there, and he stole $100 from them. Now she lost her life. Her family's a mess, and it's just awful. That's both of them. I guess he worked there a month earlier, and he just came and he shot her. Awful.
There's going to be a certain amount of crime that's committed in a big city, and we know that. It just seems like some of these stories stay with us a lot longer. Any victim of crime, the families of any victim of crime, the stories stay forever. But for us, the general public who don't know these people, some stories stick more than others. And that story about the woman being pushed, because we could all imagine ourselves being in that situation. We're standing on a platform. I've stood on that platform 100 times in my life, 42nd Street, maybe more. And you can just imagine looking the other way and not paying attention for a moment and having some, I don't want to use the wrong words, but some idiot, let me use that word, some idiot push her onto the tracks and kill her. It's a horrific death, and her family is left with that memory. And I have no charity in my heart.
And out of LA, I can speak. LA, her name was Brianna Kupner. She was another one she just came out of a store. She texted her friends. She felt that she was in danger, and this guy just came up and he stabbed her and he killed her. And there's so many of these stories. I don't know if the media is just putting them out more, or if it's happening more, but it's just terrible. And it just seems like it just seems like it's out of control. And the whole mental illness thing, I mean, I get mental illness and I'm not downplaying it or anything, but it just seems like mental illness is such an easy excuse to use nowadays. And I don't know.
Well, listen, to be continued on this topic, everybody, and what we're trying to do on this topic and everything else that we try to do this podcast is present a fair perspective, from the Republican side, the Democratic side, independent side, whatever we all are, just talking through these stories and seeing what happens over time. I certainly hope the new mayor gets his act together. I don't think it was a great couple of weeks for him. Somebody should write a little book, not that I know, I've never won elected office in my life, but I would imagine somebody should just write a book that says, if you happen to win an election, do not put your brother in office. Do not appoint your brother as the deputy commissioner of police or whatever it is. That's probably, this isn't some small town in the middle of Kansas. You're in New York City. You've got, 1 million news outlets. It's not like it wasn't going to go unnoticed. It's probably not a smart idea, Right. It's kind of like, how stupid can you be? But maybe it was just, a little oversight or something like that. And maybe better things are to come. Certainly hope so, and on a lot of issues, Eric Adams campaigned, I think, the right way. And he said a lot of things that, were right down the middle. So let's see how he governs. But not a great start, I would say.
No, well, I still, I still have hope for him, right? I think.
Yeah, me too. I really do.
Like Darrin said, he is a retired NYPD captain, so I would think he would want to, stand behind his guys, his group, and make sure they do the right thing.
Susan wrote that his brother would have gotten $252 a year, right? So look, it's here in Nassau County, we always decried nepotism and so forth, and that's all that was. He pulled him from some job in Virginia to come back, and it's just stupid, So,
but like I said, I don't think whatever side you're on, Republican, Democrat, Independent, far right, far left, you don't want people getting thrown in front of trains. So I think everybody could agree on something has to be done, and it's terrible. But Ray, real quick, I just want to let you know, Ashley is waiting in the wings.
Oh, yes.
So whenever we want to shift gears, just let me know. We'll bring her in.
I think we've depressed ourselves enough with the crime situation in New York City. Let's bring in Ashley, sure.
And just a note after this, I do want to talk to Ray about a certain TV show that he mentioned. We'll bring it up because it kind of pertains to everything. So
TV show, okay.
What's that?
A TV show that I mentioned. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, you mentioned. You know what? I think I need more gum. Let's bring Ashley in. I'm going to get some more gum. Can't get enough of this gum. So Ashley, welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hi.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Jennifer.
It's nice to meet you.
Yes, finally.
So tell us about these updates that you wanted to make us aware of with your organization.
Sure. Well, I know that Ray, I know he'll be back any second, but he just became a member of my group, and I know we're both writing a letter. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but welcome to speak, Ray.
Oh, thank you very much, Ashley. Yeah. No, I'm happy to work with you, Ashley, and join forces. You've been doing such a great job with the organization, and yeah, it's about advocacy for the differently abled, and we are trying to reach out to several different politicians, some in particular, but to just see if they can get on board and maybe join meetings and speak to the group, and hopefully that begins an ongoing dialogue that will yield some positive results. So we're going to reach out. Ashley and I had a meeting a couple of days ago where we wrote a letter to Senator Schumer.
I think it was the best letter that I've ever written. And I'm really happy to co-write with you and see what happens if Senator Schumer does agree to come to speak, if he doesn't bore us.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll be able to get into his hands or to the right people in his office, their hands. So I'm pretty confident that that he will be responding, and hopefully in the affirmative that he'll join us. So.
Yeah, and thank you, Susan. This is a great show, you guys. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ashley, we have a lot of new viewers in our audience. Maybe you could give us a description of what SPEAK does.
Mhm.
Sure. Well, SPEAK stands for Special Advocacy Coalition. So I help the differently able that want to speak up for themselves. It's my passion, my vision. I started the group 4 years ago, and it's been somewhat a success. A lot of political leaders come by and share their thoughts and help us when they need to.
Mm-hmm. What kinds of things do you want to assist your group members to be able to advocate for?
I am trying as a leader, just like everybody else, to stand up for our rights and what we all have done as a leader. But for the vision of the group, I just want to see everyone advocating for themselves. I want to see them speaking up, having fun, doing what they care about for their passion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a really great mission. And is there a specific age group that you work with?
It's right out of high school. Anyone that is in like an organization can always come to the group.
So that's something else. People with that are differently abled, when they leave sort of the cocoon of high school, they need a lot of support, right? Wouldn't you say? To move on to the next phase of their life. So it sort of sounds like that's where you come in to offer that support.
Of course, I offer them support all the time, even when it's not needed. Like some people, actually my friend Sarah, who's one of my coworkers, she and I are working on a big project that we both started, and I'm really happy about it. But getting back to SPEAK, it's my baby, and I started it, and I'm willing to make it grow and have more people.
Yeah.
Wow,
Ashley, I have to say, I'm a little bit upset because I thought you were going to be, wearing the wearing the T-shirt. I heard so many great things about it, but I guess I'm gonna have to wait for the next meeting. I guess.
You're gonna have to. I'm sorry. I was just like running all over the place. I didn't have time to change into it, but you know what? I would have loved to. Next time. Next month, I will. I promise.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Ashley, you're waiting also on a response. We're waiting on a response from the new county executive, Blakeman. I know you wrote a letter to him as well, right?
Yes, I wrote a letter to him. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I'm impatiently waiting for his return.
Well, we were talking about, to be fair to him, although I'm generally critical of him, but to be fair to him, it's, as a newly in office and new administration and so forth. So I'm hopeful that, he'll get back to us soon. He's only 20 days in, so maybe he's a little tied up right now, but let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Honestly, here's my take on him. He doesn't know anything about the differently abled world, so I got to open up the door somewhere.
Yep.
And I promise, once I get a response back, I'm going to share it.
Great.
Yeah. Was your letter to him an introduction about what it is you do?
It was a congratulatory letter, and what I would like to see that the former Nassau County executive has done that maybe he should not take away.
What would be an example of that?
There is a disability task force that Laura Curran had started before she left. So I'm hoping that Nassau County Executive Blakeman doesn't take away.
Oh, wow. And I take it you spearheaded the task force?
No, but I hope that he doesn't have, I hope that he doesn't take it away for our sake.
Okay.
Why would he take it away? Is that something, would that be something, Ray, you might know, that they would look to say, let's cut a budget and
let's put it this way. Every political person, I'm not calling out any names this time, they might take things away according to the budget.
Okay, right. Money, pretty much. Yeah.
Of course, the cost.
You know, we're in a unique situation right now with the federal money coming down to the counties and the towns and so forth. So I'm hoping that money won't be an issue as it usually is. But also on a positive note, depending upon your political perspective, but County Executive Blakeman has decided to keep a lot of the previous administration's political appointees in place for whatever reasons. And, you know, again, depending upon your perspective, you would think, or I would hope that that would mean that some of the same people are running these departments and there'd be some continuity. High profile example would be the police commissioner. He's kept the same police commissioner as Laura Curran had. So we have a new county executive, we've got a new administration, but we've got a lot of holdovers. So to Ashley's point, maybe that means that they will continue to keep the task force in place, hopefully.
Right.
Jennifer, I also want to point out to you that I have helped Mike in a big way, and I owe him a big thank you as well.
How so?
Was that me?
Yes, you.
Oh, what did I do?
What? Well, I helped you come up with the Facebook group.
Yes. See, and I'm still trying to figure out the difference between a group and a page. I'm really bad at that. I read one thing, I'm like, okay, this is really good. Wait, this is really good. So I think Ashley said make a group, right? I'm not sure exactly. Right. So then we made a group, and now we have a group too. We have groups, we have T-shirts, we have pages, Ray, we have gum. We have.
I now we just need ratings. Now we need some ratings.
I think you should promote that group now. This way more people will tune in and try to put a like on it.
Yes. So the group name is Long Island Show. Ray worked behind the scenes. He got I guess a website, Ray. Is that the right?
No, we have a domain, so it should be up and running by tomorrow. Because I set it up already, so it just propagates. If you go to Long Island Show tomorrow, folks, you can get directed directly into our Facebook group. So all you have to remember is longislandshow.com. That's it.
Right. And also we have the To the Point with Mike and Ray page. So it's broadcast on both, but we're going to try to do different things for the show. I want to have a like an entertainment segment, what's going on Long Island. Maybe we could have some people come in, talk about, things to do on Long Island, right?
This is going to be like an entertainment about what's going on Long Island. It's not going to be like Jason Momoa's single now, right? It's about Long Island stories, right?
Exactly. I don't even know who that is that you just said.
Every female in the world knows who Jason Momoa is.
I do want to point out a very important group update that we're currently working on, and that is going to be done partially soon. We wrote a letter to the governor about the housing subsidies in Long Island because, honestly, there's nothing that I can think of at the top of my head.
So maybe that's something we could look into too, to see if we could find anybody with knowledge on that. Because a lot of people I know that watch the show, they're from all walks of life. And if anybody can participate, would love to have your input and, have you on the show and help us out and help us help you, and how that works. And maybe we could get some information out.
Well, actually, Ray got to see that letter when he was at the meeting. Yeah,
terrific. Yeah, I mean, Ashley does a great job. The group does a great job. And as I said, I'm honored to be even involved. It's an honor. So
I'm honored to have you there.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you on a regular basis, Ashley. As you know, give us these updates. People need to know. We need to know. And it's always fun having you on as well.
I appreciate it.
Yes, don't be a stranger. Come back and let us, give us an update when you get the letter back, or if they write back, or if you need us to, make some phone calls, or what.
Oh no, I'm good. I know how to handle it.
And the car over,
No, I don't want you to drive all the way out here for that. As you can hear, my parents are in the background just laughing really hard. So,
but do they want to make an appearance? Do they want to pop on real quick?
No, Dad.
No. We're very friendly. We don't bite.
Why don't you stand up?
Okay, here I come. Not too fast, but I'm coming.
The life of the party.
Just walked in the door. So. And Mom's gonna come too. We're both gonna come up. We're proud of her. Come on, Paulette. Come on.
Aww.
Ray, you remember them, right?
Yes, I do. It's nice to see them again. Hi. How are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. Hi. How are you, sir?
Ashley is brilliant.
We know that.
I know.
You can't believe the things that she gets accomplished, and we're impressed. And she does this all on her own without anybody probing her or helping her. She just keeps rolling on with things that excite us and make us feel that we're in a community that's pro people with disabilities. And that's something you don't
Differently
find.
abled.
Okay. See, I don't know everything. That's why I have my daughter.
No, and we did talk about that on one of the shows, that people still use, the other words that
that word that must not be discussed. Got it.
Exactly. But because they were trained to use that for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. And it's a hard thing to overcome. And sometimes it slips out, but I don't think anyone, I can't speak for everybody. I don't think they mean it in a derogatory way. They're just not hip with the new lingo.
Let me tell you this. I've actually heard that word being said to me while I was at one of my jobs one day. And I'm like, that isn't right, like, to the person. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry for saying that.
Right. That's
you
good.
brought attention. You brought awareness and taught somebody. That's great.
You won't tolerate it. That's good.
I won't tolerate it either.
Right. And a lot of times it's just you educating them on, no, it's this, you don't say that, you say this, and it's nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. And
it was a customer that had said it.
Oh, okay.
And my manager was right with me, and I'm like, I'm going to do something about it. So I handled it myself like a strong girl.
Very
good. Good for you. Good for you. You're an inspiration, Ashley. It was so nice to meet you tonight.
Likewise.
Nice seeing you, Ashley. Nice seeing you, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah. And come back next month, give us an update, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
Of course.
Okay.
And it's a pleasure meeting all of you guys. Have a great day and keep up the good work.
Nice to meet you too.
Have a great night. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, she's so inspiring, Ray. I don't know if that's the word. Inspirational, inspiring.
She works hard. She works hard.
She does. Yeah. She works hard.
Yeah, she works hard. She works hard.
Tough stuff.
Yeah, Lane says good job, and she's got a big fan club. She's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So Ray, switching gears again, Jen, you might be able to weigh in on this real quick. So me and Ray Ray was talking about. I just butted in. I just said my piece. But there's a TV show called Squid Games.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right now, there's a lot. Did you see that by any chance, Jen? Did you watch?
I did not.
Okay. At first, I didn't want to watch it because it was violent. It wasn't sending the right message. It wasn't. But I got hooked. I watched the first episode and I got hooked. And and I think, Ray, I used a really impressive word. I impressed myself with the word. I think I said a microcosm.
That's the correct word. I used the wrong word. Used the correct word. Microcosm is the right word. It's a microcosm.
Right, of what's going on in the world today, between people at work, between people friends. It could be anything. It's not as violent as that because I don't want to be a spoiler of it, Jennifer, just in case you want to watch it. But if you don't win the game, you get it's very violent. Yeah, pretty much. So it's a real cutthroat game where they play childish games and they compete. They undercut each other just to be the one winner, where you win all that money.
You saw my comment about this, Mike, and people are free to interpret it as they see fit. But when I watched it, I thought, wow, this is just like I don't want to say corporate America, but this is like any number of jobs in America, whether you work for a company, an organization. You know, I wasn't really going to talk about it, but since we're talking about it, it's exactly what happens in a lot of organizations, honestly. You know, where people are pitted against each other, and no, they generally don't get killed, but people's lives are on the line. You know, so when you have you know, an idiot boss wanting to play games and setting up people to play games with each other, and when somebody loses their job as a result of those games, yeah, to me that's a Squid Game type scenario, honestly. So, you know, I don't know. I'm pretty adamant that type. I watched it. I said it's like work. It's exactly, not every company. There are some good organizations out there, and not any companies that I directly know of or don't know of. I don't know, maybe.
Not to the extent of what they do there. But it is good advice, Ray. If you're going to be in Squid Games, here's my little tip. Okay, come back. You know, be a square. Don't be a triangle or the circles. The circles have to clean up the bodies. The squares are pretty much the bosses, right? The triangles are like in between, but the squares are the squares are the, you know.
You know, the real key is not getting philosophical, but the real key is, if you remember watching the show, these people were not forced to enter into the game.
Exactly.
They weren't forced.
No.
So they were free, and they were in, you know, a relatively bad situation, but everything is relative. That's the other thing about takeaway from the show. Everything is relative.
Right.
So before they started the game, they thought they were destitute, they didn't have any money, and they thought they were on life's out, you know, on the outs. And then many of those people who got into the game would just kill to go back to where they were.
Right.
So my take on it was, you have to identify when people are playing games or trying to play a game or about to play a game, and your power is in the very beginning, when you can go tell them in the beginning to go to hell.
Right. But not only that, if you, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but not that it's a spoiler, but they did have the option of going home, and they did. But a
lot of them came back. Yeah. And listen, we you know, we go back to work sometimes. We go back to work the next day. We take a beating the next day, and we do it all over again because we need the paycheck. We need the money.
Can't you guys just watch the Golden Girls? Betty White.
I guess I watched the Golden Girls. That's Estelle Getty and B. Arthur, right? They were the Golden Girls.
And Rue McClanahan and Betty White.
Yeah. I did watch that, I guess, but you know, it's 2022 now. We have to watch new shows. So, you
know, for Betty White, can you imagine a life better lived than Betty White's life? I mean, she's just universally liked. Can't find anybody who's had anything bad to say about her. I mean, what a legacy, and too bad. But you know, what a blessing, and what a great life. And you know, Mike, listen, and Jen, before I want to mention this, please, because I'm going to forget, and I hate to do that. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago in Hicksville that they're going to be doing a meeting on February 7th. I wanted to mention it again tonight. In fact, let me just pull up that little thing I had. It's February 7th, and people ought to go to Lorraine's page, which is Save Our Hicksville, or Kevin's page, which is Town of Oyster Bay News, to get further details. I know it's 7 p.m., and I think they're saying that you ought to get there by 6:30 on February 7th. So we did a special show on Hicksville a few weeks ago. Anybody who's got any kind of interest in Hicksville, people who ran for office, people who are going to run for office, you really need to be there, okay? And it's open to everybody, and there's probably going to be some disagreement amongst people there because it's a meeting that's open to everybody. But that's what you want. You want to have conversation. So again, great job by Lorraine, great job by Kevin to organize it. And it's on February 7th at 7 p.m. is officially, but I think 6:30 p.m. is what they're saying you should be there at.
I'll post this link on Kevin's page. I know he's having problems right now with his page. So once he gets that straightened out, we'll post it to him, because that still seems to be, I don't know, down, or I'm not sure what the word is, but suspended or whatever it is. But
we got to reserve, we got to just set a little reminder to do these community announcements to follow up some of the things that we've spoken about. But I know that we wrote this one down. February 7th is for that meeting in Hicksville. So
we could do that, Ray, right after my gum segment, if you want.
You picked the one day I have my gum ready to go, so I'm going to make sure I have it Every show I'm going to be singing chewing gum. I know you last week you caught me on camera putting gum in my mouth, right?
Wads of gum, I guess it would be.
But. Yeah. I'm guilty as charged.
I think it was a great show. Anything else that we can add? Or thanks again to Dr. Darrin Porcher. It's always good talking to him. He's a breath of fresh air. He really is. He's bright. I told him he should have ran for mayor. He would have won. Hands down, he would have won.
Does he live in the city, or does he live?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was a good show. Mike, did you want to touch real quick about the president's speech yesterday? Did you want to say something about it real quick?
Right.
Do you want to save that to next week?
We could save it to next week, but just real quick, I was just very upset with the whole Ukraine, how he's overperforming. But you know what? It's just all words. At the end of the day,
Look, we've spoke about it offline, but nobody thinks that this president is a great communicator. Nobody. Nobody thinks that he is a great orator, a great communicator, whatever you want to use. But if you're going to judge him on the way that he bumbles words and so forth, you're not going to give him a good grade. And I do think that people can be critical of a lot of things that have happened in the last year. Inflation is definitely something that people are looking at, that I feel, that everyone feels. The president has to fix that. He's got to get on top of that. But the one thing I will say in his defense is that he asked a rhetorical question yesterday that I ask all the time, which is, what does the Republican Party stand for in 2022? We know that the Republicans don't like the president. We know they don't like the Democratic agenda, whatever that might be. But where are the Republican answers to our most pressing needs?
Right. And I guess I can give you an answer to that, Ray. I just think it's different than what it is. It's just something other than what we have. It could be anything. The people, they're just not happy. And I'd really love to get your take. Maybe we could talk about it on here. When you were at a certain place and you were talking about people that supported, like, say, Donald Trump.
No, I'll share that. I mean, I've had the occasion in the last week to be in two different sorry, I'm stuttering. I had occasion to be in two different areas of the country, same general area, but two different states, let's say. And my sense of it is that if the former president decides to run for office, he clearly is going to get the Republican nomination. There's no question about it. And I think that he becomes the hands-on favorite to win the election. That's my sense. And it's not something I'm hoping for by any means, but my sense is
the people that you encountered, Ray, what was their message to you? Like, why the Republican issues are better than the Democrat issues? Is it just because they were unhappy with what they have now, or were they using good points?
There's a concept in real estate that everyone refers to every once in a while called quiet enjoyment. And politicians don't seem to understand that, because politicians always want to talk about changing this and changing that. And I think there are a lot of people in the country who are just happy with the way things are or the way things were, depending on who you ask. And they don't want government to be involved a whole lot. They're skeptical of politicians. And so for that reason, I think those people default to the Republican Party. I think that the problem Democrats have is that when one Democrat does something stupid, like this guy in Manhattan, the DA, it reverberates throughout the country. Right. So you could be sitting at a coffee shop or maybe even a bar in York, Pennsylvania, and talking to people, and they'll let you know that there's some guy in Manhattan who's screwing things up. And you'll say, wait a minute, you're so far removed. How do you even care? Why do you care about this? But they're great about that. They're great about messaging. It's like transgender bathrooms, the whole controversy, or Olympic athletes who were female, who became male, male became female, whatever it is. I mean, is this really an issue that affects our day-to-day lives? It affects no one's life, really. I mean, but they do a great job, meaning the Republicans do a great job on messaging. And in my opinion, distracting from the issues that really affect Americans. I mean, healthcare, we'll probably do a show on this, Mike. We should probably do a show. Healthcare, what happens when you get older? What happens when you age? Mm-hmm. If you make it in your life to be 80 years old, you're going to have health conditions, okay? And yes, you eventually are going to die. And as you are in that process, how are you handling your affairs? And again, I'll save it for another show, but you're going to be in a big problem. I can promise you that.
You'll be really surprised, Ray. I actually agree with you on that issue. I really do.
When you get older, this is the hands-on, and again, I don't want to go on to this, but right now, but the truth of the matter is that if you're fortunate enough to live 80 years old and you need help at home, you are going to be gaming the system, hands down. You're going to be the most proud person, the person who's worked his entire life and didn't accept a handout his entire life. Get him to be 80 years old and watch what happens.
Yep.
I challenge anybody to tell me otherwise. Because if they're able to do that, I'll take a notepad and write notes. I know what happens because I'm seeing it firsthand. You're going to game the system. And all of a sudden, Jen said the same thing. All of a sudden, those socialist Democrats, they're not so bad because now you need the help.
Right.
So
right.
Why don't we do something as a society to address those concerns now and stop being so stupid about them?
It's all in the messaging, Ray. If it was a different message, like say the Republicans put out a different message, it would be a no-brainer. That's a tough one, and I agree with you on that. And I think we should head that way. I don't know how it can be implemented because there's so much money in insurance companies and and everything.
You need two working parties. And people, I'm critical of the Democrats, as you know, Mike, as you know, Jen. I'm very, very critical of a lot of things. I don't think we should be changing the filibuster. I don't think we should change the rules. I think we should stick to the rules and actually win the game. But you need two working parties. And right now you've got a semi-working Democratic Party, a little bit dysfunctional on some level. But our Republican friends, I don't know, you've got a little bit of an issue there. I mean, what I say it, respectfully, but what do you guys stand for? What are you guys about?
Unfortunately, Ray, it's the game right now they're playing is just sit and wait. Just sit and wait for him to crumble instead of helping out and making the country better. Same thing, when Trump was president, they went after him every day. They threw everything at him, both barrels, just to get him out rather than help the country. So
not to interrupt you, Mike, but to answer your question from the outset, if Donald Trump decides to run for president, which I think he probably, I don't know, if he decides to run for president, the Democrats with these indictments that they're talking about in New York City, it's not going to go far. Okay, they're not going to go far. These real estate fraud type things, they don't resonate, and I'm not saying that he didn't do something illegal. He probably did, but it's not the type of thing, it's not a knockout punch. And ultimately it's going to be messaged as it was a political thing, so they're not going to be able, if Democrats are counting on Trump being indicted as the way out, it's not going to happen. I think what they need to do is beat him on messaging, beat him on the issues. And, again, getting into politics, you can't have Joe Biden be the person doing that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, listen, his role in history should be that of a transitionary person. Very important role. Served 4 years, will serve 4 years in a very important time in our country. But where's the next great Democratic voice? Where is it? I was up in Boston. I kept thinking about Kennedy everywhere I went. JFK. Where's our next Democratic leader who can speak to these issues?
Ray, I have 2 words.
That's funny.
The Rock, baby. The Rock.
The Rock.
We need The Rock.
Yeah. You've got a Rock thing. I don't know. We got to do a show on that, Mike. Look at the smile. Have you seen the smile all night? Look at the smile.
It's the gum. Look how white my teeth are. Ray, I think what we just did there qualified for the... Ray, did you know that I enjoy poetry, long walks, and sunsets?
I'm waiting for the tattoo on your arm to be changed. Like I've got the Kamala thing, right? So we got to change. We have to talk to your daughter about changing yours to The Rock. But
yeah,
I love my Kamala. And by the way, in case anybody doesn't realize, I can't stand Kamala Harris. So this is obviously a spoof. But
the Kamala 2024. I have my heart and pie. I love pie. So.
Listen, we actually got to write down some of these ideas of different shows because I would love to do a show with you guys about healthcare as you get older, the system, how it works and how it doesn't work, and the games that have to be played.
Yes.
That should be the title of the show. The games that you have to play as you get older to get healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great idea.
Yep. All right, so we'll work on that. Get some entertainment news. Like I said, we'll do a couple shows a week, and we'll we'll fill it up. Hopefully, we get some momentum and people are interested. We're also looking for people. What were we talking about? Right, like real estate people. If you want to,
if you want to advertise your listings with us, let us know. We'll do like a feature listing of the week type of thing. So, we actually have people watch the show, so maybe we'll be able to sell a house or something like that through our show. So
anything to help people on Long Island or wherever you are,
What did you think about Biden's statement last night that Kamala was absolutely going to be his running mate? Michael wrote that. I don't know. I think it's depressing, honestly. I think it's depressing. I think that the Democratic Party needs to give Joe Biden a big thank you for filling this role for 4 years. And I think that, I think he needs to be a transitionary person to hand it off to somebody else. And I don't think that person should be Kamala Harris. I don't. Maybe The Rock. I don't know. Maybe The Rock. All these celebrities, though, very few actually do anything, right? Wasn't Matthew McConaughey going to run for governor in Texas for a minute?
He was. And the other guy, too, the other knucklehead from the Dallas Maverick. What's his name?
Cuban?
Mark Cuban. He was going to run. He was going to. But, they probably have so many skeletons in their closets. And
listen, I mean, that's the thing is that, what do we expect from our politicians now? That they're perfect and you can't find them having said anything stupid in their past? Or I'm not defending those things, but I'm just saying that what do I think Kamala thinks? I don't think she thinks. That's my answer. I don't know. I'm not very if you keep me on long enough, Mike, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret about something, but I'm not a big fan of the vice president. I never was. I think that she got the job strictly because she checked the boxes, so she was a woman, she was a minority, she was a double minority, boom, boom, boom. And I think that's a terrible, terrible way to pick a person. I think you need to do it based on qualifications. I never would have even said that the vice president needed to be a female. I think it should have been left open. And you would hope that everyone's looked at equally. And there were plenty of other qualified females. Senator Klobuchar, I would have loved to have her as vice president. I think she would have done a great job. Even Senator Warren, who I don't always agree with, I think would have been a much better vice president. So.
Yeah, I think she would have been a nightmare. But Smith Warren.
Maybe. I mean, listen, this one. What is she doing? I don't know. Maybe she's quiet behind the scenes type of thing. But you're hearing these stories about a lot of issues with her staff and people leaving her staff and not really happy with her and stuff like that. So,
right.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, we have no one left our staff, so that's a good sign. So let's see, Prime Minister Trudeau. You die to see how first-term Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau picked this cabinet. Not really sure.
I'm not sure how he picked this cabinet, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, I love the Canadian national anthem, if that counts. I could sing it. I'm not going to, but I can. From hockey, just from hockey. Watching hockey.
Of course. Right. But yeah, maybe next show we could do that. So I don't know. I think that was a show. What do you think? Anything else to add? Anything?
Looking forward to next week. I think we're doing Tuesday and Thursday, everybody. So tune in on Tuesday. We'll probably put something up a little bit earlier so everyone can see. But Tuesday and Thursday next week.
Right. If you have any ideas, suggestions. Somebody asked, how do they get on the show? I saw a comment before, but I don't know where that is. You just send us a message. And and we'll talk. We'll have our people get in touch with your people.
It's not hard. I tell you that. I can promise you that right now. It's not a hard process.
It's not rigorous. It's not a rigorous process. All right. So until next week, everybody, thanks again for watching, and please join our group, like our page, whatever you kids today do with the follow, like, whatever it is.
Right.
We appreciate it because it helps me buy more gum. That's great. Yeah, you get a case of gum.
I mean, this is like, to give you some perspective, this is like That's one hand. This is the other hand. So. Yeah. Anyone need winter fresh gum? Just let me know. You get a free shirt. No, you get it with every shirt that you buy. You get a free gum.
Yes, and I have to get the shirts out because I promised so many shirts. But I'll work on that this week.
That's a good plan.
Yes.
Good seeing you, Jen.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Hold on.
Been away, they hadn't changed that much to say. Man, I still think those cats are crazy. They were asking if you were around, where you were, the way you could be found. I told them you were living downtown, driving all the